Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about just going back and looking at the period between now and January of 2023 and the OGL crisis, and how Hasbro has navigated this crisis era, and how the advice of the OSR and Indy commentators is now laughable. It's become utterly laughable. And we're going to look at this through the lens of K-pop demon hunters. So the reason we're talking about this today is I watched a video on, I really love these kind of like, let's take a look at this week's box office. And Grace Randolph is the very best at this. She's elevated this to an art form. She has a show called Movie Math that comes out every Sunday. Literally close to 1 million people wait for it to drop. I wait for it to drop, and I watch it on my big screen, and I don't do anything else. That's how I know I love content. I'm elevating this to watch it on my my big screen at home, and I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to build Legos. I'm not going to sort magic cards. I'm not going to play Balatro on my Switch. I'm just going to do this one thing. I don't, and I know I'm locked in, right? But I came across this new guy, and he was interesting. But one of the things he did was he gave a breakdown, and he talked about K-pop demon hunters. So K-pop demon hunters is a big deal. It came out on Netflix, and it was a streaming show. And then what was interesting is they went from this K-pop demon hunters show to they put it on the big screen for a sing-along edition. And I'm sorry, when I say big screen, I said big screen in my big screen on my 45-inch television, which isn't even that big compared to other people's. When I say big screen, I mean in theaters. They put it on the American theater big screen. And it was a 2-day launch. It came in #1. It beat out Weapons, and it was a huge hit. Also, just recently, after like 6 weeks, K-pop Demon Hunters became the #1 viewed movie of all time in foreign language or in English. #1 movie that Netflix has ever put on. More people watched it more times than any movie Netflix has ever done. So this guy came in and he's like, oh my gosh, Sony created this thing, and they could, they didn't believe in it. And Netflix bought this for a song for $100 million. And boy, how stupid was Sony? They should have known this was going to be an absolute massive hit. And anybody who could, looked at K-pop Demon Hunters would have known this was just going to sweep the world. And they should have, held it for themselves, and they could have sold it to different groups, rather than just get their money back from, and really went in on Sony. But what really is fascinating is he is so wrong. He is so wrong. First of all, there's never been anything like this movie. There's never been a movie that really is functioning as an anime movie, right? Japanese animation, but isn't anime, right? This is Southern Korean animation. There's nothing like that, right? There's not there are K-dramas, that's a thing, right? But animated South Korean material that links to K-pop music, that there's absolutely nothing like this. Like K-pop Demon Hunters, there has no precedence. It is literally possibly a new genre, right? And it is certainly unique. Like, I think most people are like, oh, this is going to perform like anime. And anime has struggled at the box office, and it has struggled on streaming. It has a very distinct audience, but it never tops the charts anywhere, right? They buy hundreds. Netflix has bought hundreds of animes, and none of them have most of them don't even scrape the bottom 10 of the top 10 shows or movies, right? There was absolutely no clues this would be the massive hit that it became, right? And this is what's really fascinating. 2023 OGL happens, right? Everybody's like, oh, Hasbro's, getting down on these independent creators of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition material, and they absolutely need third-party creators. 100% wrong. We do not need a single third-party creator for Dungeons & Dragons. they are dropping 3, 4, 5 D&D canon hardbacks every single year. If there was not a single third-party creator, we'd be just fine. You wouldn't even be able to run everything that Hasbro is creating for D&D 5e, right? And so all these OSRs came out, and all these indie commentators came out, and they're like, "Oh, let me tell you what what needs to happen on K-pop Demon Hunter." So yeah, let me tell you what they need. Actually, all these OSR and indie creators are like, "Let me tell you what Dungeons and Dragons needs to do." And now, okay, a couple things. One, if you are an OSR commentator, your words don't even count. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, right? We just got the metrics, right? Professor Dungeon Master was like, when it comes to OSR, Shadow Dark was like between like 10 and 15, and Pirate Borg was between 10 and 15. And OSR is a blip. People aren't, it does make it into the top 20, but it doesn't even make it into the top 10, right? Like, it's super niche, right? And there are new people, like there are young people like Ben from Questing Beast and Kelsey Dion who love OSR, but it's super niche. Nothing they do is ever a threat to Dungeons and Dragons, really, right? So what about the indie commentators? They come out and they're like, Dungeons and Dragons should do this, Dungeons and Dragons should do that. And what's really wild is Dungeons and Dragons weathered every storm in 2023, weathered every storm in 2024. And then 2025 came out, and President Trump's like, tariffs everywhere. And indies are like, we're barely even going to be able to stay alive, right? Like, and Kickstarter, we used to do these global distributions. Now the global distribution chain is breaking down. And so all their advice is just, it's laughable at this point, right? And Professor Dungeon Master just did a fantastic video, and he's like, D&D's about to explode. He's like, I really, Hasbro's stock was down to like $54. I think it was 52. It was all the way down to 52. It's at 77. If you bought Hasbro stock, when it was at its worst, you were buying for a 50% increase within 2 years, right? And Professor Dungeon Master, like, and this is before we even get Stranger Things 5, right? Which is going to blow the roof off of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So it's really fascinating, and I think where we've landed is we really see that OSR and indie commentary on what D&D should do has always been laughable nonsense, just ridiculous. Just we could have ignored every bit of it. Not a single one of them actually. Not only did they not know how to beat D&D, they didn't even know what arena the fight was happening in. They're like, oh, we need to build a better tabletop role-playing game. No, you need to build a cultural phenomenon, because D&D doesn't function as a TTRPG. It functions really it really functions as a cultural phenomenon. That's the best way to understand it. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.